Hey, welcome back to Compounding Quietly. VYM yields more than SCHD right now. That one sentence ends more conversations than it should. If you've spent time comparing these two funds side by side, you've probably felt the pull of that number. More yield means more income. That logic feels clean. But the yield difference between VYM and SCHD is not telling you what you think it is. Let's actually look at this clearly. Every time an investor starts building a dividend portfolio, the same question surfaces almost immediately. Which one pays more? It is not a wrong question, but it is almost always asked before a more important question gets answered. What kind of income are you actually trying to build, and when do you need it? VYM and SCHD are both widely held, low-cost dividend ETFs with long track records. Both target companies with meaningful dividend payouts. Both are designed for long-term, income-oriented investors. And yes, VYM currently yields more than SCHD. That gap is real, and it shows up in your account every single quarter. But if that yield number is the first thing you reach for, you are starting the evaluation from the wrong end. Here is why this comparison keeps circling back to the same confusion. Yield is visible. It is right there on the screen, a clean percentage, easy to compare. Dividend growth is not visible in the same way. When you look at two ETFs side by side, you see the current payout. You do not see the rate at which that payout has been increasing year over year. You do not see what that payout might look like in year 8, or year 12, or year 15. For most long-term income investors, that growth trajectory is what determines the real outcome, not the number visible today. This is not a case against yield. It is a case for measuring the right thing before you make the call. A higher yield today and a stronger income stream over time are two different outcomes. Treating them as the same thing leads to decisions that feel right in the moment, but land differently over a long horizon. Let's look at how these two funds are actually constructed, because structure drives outcome. VYM, the Vanguard High Dividend Yield ETF, tracks an index that selects stocks based on above-average dividend yield. The primary filter is current yield. That means the fund tends to concentrate in sectors historically known for generous payouts: financials, utilities, energy, industrials, and consumer staples. The result is a broadly diversified portfolio. VYM holds several hundred companies. The yield runs noticeably above the overall market average, and the exposure is wide. SCHD, the Schwab U.S. Dividend Equity ETF, uses a more layered screening process. It evaluates dividend history, dividend growth rate, financial strength ratios, and relative yield together. Current yield is one input, but it competes with the others. Because of that, SCHD can hold companies with a lower current yield if their dividend track record and financial stability are strong. The result is a more concentrated portfolio around 100 companies. The starting yield is lower than VYM, but the historical rate of dividend growth has been meaningfully stronger. That difference in construction is where the real comparison begins. Picture an investor who's 38 years old. He has been building his dividend portfolio steadily for 6 years. He opens both ETF pages and notices that VYM yields roughly 0.5% more than SCHD. He runs the math on a $100,000 position. That is $500 per year in additional income. That feels real. That feels like something worth acting on. So he shifts toward VYM. 6 months later, the two funds have moved roughly together. He is receiving slightly more income from VYM. Everything looks right, but the divergence in dividend growth rates does not show up in a 6-month comparison. It shows up in a 12-year comparison. And by the time that difference is visible, the compounding has either been running or it has not. What he is not seeing is how dividend growth compounds over the next 15 to 20 years. A fund that consistently grows its dividend can produce more income per share by year 10 than one that simply started higher. Yield on cost is the dividend relative to the original price, paid, not the current market price. That number tells a very different story from what you see on the screen today. That 38-year-old has the runway for that compounding difference to play out, but the current yield number does not show it. Now consider a different investor. She's 63. She retired 18 months ago. Her portfolio generates the income she lives on every month. She is not reinvesting dividends, she is spending them. For her, Dividend growth over the next 15 years is not a planning variable. It does not factor into next month's budget. What matters is what arrives in her account this quarter. For her, a higher current yield from VYM has immediate, concrete value. SCHD's long-term growth trajectory cannot replace that income in the near term. This is the part of the VYM versus SCHD conversation that most comparisons skip. The yield difference matters, but how much it matters depends entirely on where you are in your investment life. There is one more layer worth addressing. Total return includes both income and price appreciation. Dividend-focused investors sometimes treat yield as the only variable, but it is not. If one fund delivers lower current income alongside stronger price growth, the combined outcome over a long horizon may be comparable or even stronger. Evaluating VYM purely on income, without accounting for what its underlying sector mix does to price appreciation over time, can lead to an incomplete picture. The same is true for SCHD. Neither fund is best understood through a single number. SCHD has historically shown competitive total return alongside its dividend growth track record. VYM has delivered broad diversification and consistent current income. Neither of those outcomes is a failure. They reflect different designs, built for different purposes. The question is not which fund is better in isolation. The question is, which design fits the job you are hiring it for right now? And that job description changes, depending on where you are and how long your runway is. So here is where that leaves the decision. If you are still accumulating years away from needing this income, the current yield gap matters less than the growth rate behind it. A fund that compounds its dividend at a higher rate can produce meaningfully more income by year 12 than one that simply started higher. The runway is what activates that advantage. Reinvesting distributions during that accumulation phase amplifies it further. Each reinvested dividend buys more shares. More shares generate more dividends. That cycle does not require price appreciation to work. It just requires time. If you are in distribution, drawing income now, covering real monthly expenses, the yield today is the income today. A higher starting payout has immediate, concrete value. Compounding over 15 years is not the relevant frame for that investor. Neither VYM nor SCHD is a mistake. They are different answers to different questions. The investor most likely to feel disappointed is not the one who chose the wrong fund. It is the one who measured the wrong thing and then judged the result against criteria that never applied to their situation. The yield gap between VYM and SCHD is not a verdict. It is a data point. What you bring to that data point is the criteria. That is what today was about. Compounding quietly. Slow, steady wealth building. If this helped, subscribe and leave a like. Everything here is for informational purposes only. All final decisions and responsibilities remain with you. Thanks for spending time with Compounding Quietly today.